beat her to the punch.
Yeah.
It's so impactful. If you're the one starting these conversations, you're the one leaning in and going, hey, honey, I had my therapy earlier today. I'd love to share it with you. Do you have some time now, or when would you want to talk about it? Right. And you've done some reflection yourself. You're going up with, a couple topics you wanted to bring up, like even a trigger.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I am here with Cory Anderson. Cory, we're talking about something that has actually come up a decent amount on the podcast, and it's because it's an issue in our recovery groups. So let's talk about hanging in there, because really that I want to frame for everybody why we're having this topic. It's not just to save your marriage. Guys, if you're not hanging in there, your recovery is going to be trash as well, right? I mean, hanging in there, and I don't mean hanging in there. I mean like actively on the horse, participating and excited to participate, which I can, if you are listening to this and you're like, what's exciting about recovery? It should be. If it's not exciting, you're seeing the wrong, you're doing it wrong. It's just, there's better ways to do this. All the guys in my recovery group look forward to our weekly
meeting. Engaging should be meaningful work, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's, we'll talk more about that later, I'm sure. But let's get started. Cory, what would you say, frame for everybody, just so they can hear you empathize a little bit with how brutal this is before we start diving into the details of it?
Yeah, sure. It's such a tough topic like you're bringing up. It's close to my heart. I end up working with guys either individually or I love doing couples work as well in this area. And, this is that place where, okay, you're past disclosure, maybe, you're past showing some sobriety and health there. And maybe you in your journey are feeling like, yeah, I'm doing this. I'm getting it. I'm feeling great, actually, right? Like a lot of guys at this place, they're feeling the serenity. They're feeling camaraderie, even maybe some with their brothers in recovery. But then they, go home or they have a conversation with their wife, and it's the quote unquote same old thing, right? Oh, you did this. You're such a blank. You're such a, and she's trying to share her pain and hurt with the person and with you. And again, like you're saying, it's more than just hanging in there. I like the visual of like leaning in, so it's brutal because the first inclination when we're attacked, well, maybe is fight, but fight or flight. And usually in these cases, it's kind of that pull back and like, I can't handle this. I'm backing up, and you're doing the Homer Simpson shrinking into the shrubbery kind of gif. And so instead it's about leaning in, and that becomes so tough, and you need the support of some good recovery program, good therapists, good people around you, be able to hang in. Also, even having the hope that it's going to work, the hope that how long do I have to hang into this place? How much of this can I tolerate? I don't know, how much more, I hear that all the time. And so I love being an encouragement and being there right alongside these guys going, yeah, I got your back, and you're right where you're supposed to be, and she's where she's supposed to be. And let's get her some more resources if we can, maybe, and seeing what we can do to keep leaning in.
Let's start there. I think that's a great place to start is, it's tough to be in limbo, and no one likes to be in limbo, and you're in limbo in this. I mean, it's just, there's no other way around it. No one can tell you how long this is going to take. There's way too many factors. To give guys an idea of what I mean by factors is, I always use my life, for example. It's just a lot easier to speak to my own example with my wife and I. So my wife had a plethora of experiences as a child that were where she was objectified essentially by her parents. This is how to be perfect. This is how to look perfect, right? So there's a lot of this perfection. She was raised in a very purity culture of a very, kind of pretty extreme religious purity kind of values.
I work a lot in that community too.
Same for me. I was raised in the LDS church. And so same thing for me, right? So her and I are coming, we have that background, right? Where there's all this shame around a lot of this. Okay.
Sexuality, period.
And judgment, right? And judgment, no doubt, right? Then we fast forward, right? And we go into like more modern day traumas. She had, I'm not going to get into her business, but she had something extremely traumatic happen to her in her early 20s. And then I had something traumatic happen to me. I was arrested for my sex addiction when I was 14 years old. And so you have these events, right? Now, here we are, fast forward, we're together, I get discovered, and all of this is coming up. My distrust of, oh, everybody's the same. Nobody has room for the complexities and my trauma. They're just going to cast judgment. On her end, this is like this is the big, I have to leave him. I have to divorce him. I always told myself I would leave a guy who did this to me. So my point is, as you keep piling on these factors, it will impact your recovery. Now, one thing I just want to get very, very clear. In no way am I saying that all these factors have to extend this. I did not say that. They have to be dealt with. And sometimes if you're busy and you guys have 3 or 4 kids and you both work and you're involved in all these, then yeah, maybe this could take some time because you're going to be getting to these things a lot later. But that's, from a time frame standpoint, I just want to empathize with everybody listening. I get it. It sucks to be in limbo, but this is a very limbo-esque place. I don't know. No one can give you a timestamp. And if they are giving you a timestamp, I don't know why they gave that to you, because anybody who knows anything about this field knows better than that. But I do want to say, just repeat one more, you're going to hear the common one that I've heard is 3 to 5 years from a relational standpoint. Guys and gals listening, don't get hung up on that crap. My wife and I went beast mode. And, I mean, I'm not going to lie. It still took a really, 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 really long time. But I mean, we went all in on, and I don't mean just checking off the boxes. I mean, a ton of introspection, a ton of her challenging me challenging her. So I just wanted to clear that up. It sucks to be in limbo, but you're going to be in limbo. And I would say, if you want to get out of limbo, honor this process, honor everything you got. And it'll be as short as it can be. Cory, when you speaking on the topic of timeline, how would you frame this for people? Because again, we do see hope diminishing when you're in limbo. It's very hard to keep hope high in limbo. What's your response to that, to people hanging in there?
I mean, kind of like you're talking about with going beast mode. Like I talk, and usually this is maybe a guy earlier seeing me earlier, or a couple, but this idea of kind of front loading versus kind of back end. And, a lot of people, especially people struggling with addiction, they're used to the mindset of how little can I get away with? How little can I do and still be successful? And I mean, the guys that I've seen really make great progress and really get into this space in a healthier way, and maybe be able to have the endurance to take on the marathon of this limbo. They're jumping in with more than they need. They're doing more groups than they need. They're doing more therapy, so to speak, than you need. I know that's me coming from as a therapist, saying more therapy than you need seems a little contradictory, but anyways, they're going all in, right? And finding stuff. If there's a RCA, like Recovering Couples Anonymous meeting, or, some other things that are appropriate for you to do as a couple early on. Sometimes we'll have couples come in right off the bat just to meet and have kind of logistical discussions. What is going on for you two? We're not doing couples work. We're digging deep, but we're just trying to help a couple stabilize, be able to live with each other, or figure out if there's an in-house separation or outhouse. Oh, it is the outhouse for the guys. Outhouse. So during the limbo, though, I talk a lot maybe about tolerance, and we're looking at tolerance. We're looking at ways to build some of those resources. This is a time to learn meditation, get good at that, prayer, work on spiritual life, whatever that looks like. And in a way, there's a parallel here to the guy's own work as to their work of being there for their spouse, because one of the foundational pillars of recovery is you have to learn your own empathy for yourself. Right? And I know you had someone recently speaking about empathy, and it sounds like an amazing podcast, so I'll have to listen to. But that's what I find first off the bat is so many guys are lacking empathy for themselves. And, that's where the addiction comes in and just beats you up more, and the shame beats you up more. And so doing that work, having that empathy, also then creates some of that parallel for your spouse too. And you're learning how to have empathy for her, even so much as to say, okay, I'm going to somehow find acceptance that this is going to be a lot of repeat. She's going to bring up this over and over and over. And how do you be okay with that?
What I hear you saying is you instill hope by really just reiterating, hey guys, like we actually know a lot about this. We see couples like this all the time. Like there is a method to this madness.
Right. Yeah.
And
Thanks
yeah,
for bringing back
right.
that. Yeah.
Right. Which I like that, because that is the truth. I mean, in the end, like there are couples who make it through this. There are couples who make it through stronger. Here's what they did. Now, all that being said, it's not easy. You know, Michelle Mays, I love her, what she says. She calls it the Super Bowl of couples therapy.
Yep.
And it truly is. I mean, and I like that analogy, because if you think about the Super Bowl, it's the cream. It is the top of the top. It's the best of college, then get into this other place, and then the best of this other place get to go to the Super Bowl. And you really do need to bring that level of emotional intelligence, self-awareness, social awareness, empathy, compassion, grace. You got to bring level 10 Super Bowl quality in all those areas. And I think that's the intimidating piece, is when people start to realize I'm basically going to have to become the best at this to make it. But then here's my rebuttal to that is, I get that, and that sounds daunting, but like, is it really that bad to become the best at empathy, the best at compassion, the best at communication, the best at ownership, the best at, I mean, come on, like all this stuff, like it's not a bad thing to get the best at, right? Yeah. So you said something I'd love for the conversation to go here for a second. You talked about, and I do want to just visit this for a second, because it's real, man. Cory, this shit is brutal for men, and I get it. Like I said in the beginning, it's 50 times worse for the women. So everything I'm about to say, I'm not trying to get compassion or make any sort of comparison. I'm not. I'm just trying to empathize with the guys who are listening. And ladies, if you're listening, just listen to this. It is hard for these men. I mean, it is. It's hard. It sucks when your wife's calling you a monster. It sucks when your wife is saying, I'm never going to wear my wedding ring again. It sucks when she takes down all the pictures of the wedding and says the wedding didn't count, and neither did any of our past vacations. Yeah. It sucks when she makes you tell her family, your friends. It sucks when she makes you tell the kids. It sucks when she says, hey, I don't want you coming on this family vacation with us. I want to go alone with the kids. On and on and on and on and on. You're basically, here's the analogy, and I get why this is the case. I just like to make this analogy to further just kind of call attention to how brutal this is. We would never take an alcoholic, a heroin addict, and throw them on the ground and kick them while they're down. Honey, I can't believe you're a monster. And just calling this junkie names. Why? Because he's going to probably run out of the back door and go probably overdose somewhere, right? So, but we do that with guys with this problem. And I get why. I am not I would say all of those same names, maybe worse. I have a nastier potty mouth than my wife, so I'm sure I would have come up with all sorts of things. I would have drove to the guy's house and the guys' houses, and I'd probably be in prison for doing, who knows what I would have done. So I'm not saying that what these ladies are doing is crazy or inappropriate. I would have done the same. I would have done the same thing. I would have been worse. And it still doesn't change the fact that this guy is getting humiliated in probably one of the worst ways he's ever been. And he's being kicked while he's down. And I think we just need to honor that. My message is not for the wives. You guys have all the right to be angry. My message more so is to the guys. Like, just appreciate what's happening to you, because it's hard. And you really are in a position where you don't get to complain. You don't get to when it comes to the formal therapy. But here's the thing I want to say to that, and then I'll turn the mic over to you, Cory, is guys, though, you do get to complain. One of my biggest regrets of the first year was not telling more, again, not my wife, but my therapist, my support group, how painful this was, and really allowing myself to hurt. I had the story of like, well, I cheated. I am a monster, so I don't get it all. Exactly. And that's just not helpful, because you know what happened over that year. And that's kind of the reason I'm bringing this up, is it's pertinent to the topic we're discussing today. Is over that first year of me just saying, nope, I don't get to have problems. I don't get to feel. I don't get to hurt. I'm a monster. I have not, I don't deserve any sympathy, compassion. That was one of the bigger regrets, because what happened was it built, and it ended up being a lot of the reason why I didn't have capacity when we really needed to start growing together as a couple. I was just so done. I was so over it and this happens all
No
the time. Guys
distance.
hit it and they're out. Right.
Yeah.
So speak to that. I think guys need to, you need to understand how hard this is and you need to let that in. I wouldn't go asking your wife for compassion, but
Sure.
I would certainly bring it up to your support group and to your therapist.
Yeah, totally. And it's, as you're describing that journey and during that year, like you're trying your best to show up, to be there for her, to be the rock, to be the strong one, to, take all that pain on, so to speak. But how's that any different than what you're doing in your addiction, right? Like typically that's every single guy I've worked with, and now it's just extended into this beginning part of recovery. You still don't have a voice, you still don't have emotions, you still aren't sure what those emotions are or what to do with them besides like hold on for dear life. And so you're right, like that needs to be expressed. And even if it's gonna feel bad, I'll put it that way. It's gonna feel bad because you're gonna be going to your therapist or a sponsor or someone saying, hey, I'm having these thoughts about my wife. I'm really feeling negative toward her. Let's put it lightly, right? I'm really feeling negative toward her because of this and that happened and what she was saying. Or just I'm feeling beat up. I'm feeling kicked on the ground and I don't know what to do. And it's really painful. Yeah, you're 100% right.
You have to, because it will. And I'm a pretty tough guy. I get over things, like separate reality quick. This is so brutal, guys. I mean, this does add up. I mean, if you're not expressing it, getting out of you, crying, screaming, whatever you got to do, because this is. I mean, it sucks. Here's the way I describe it, Cory. Is here's why I found it so frustrating was. And again, this isn't really what it was like. This was what it felt like to me. It felt like everybody was mad at me and judging me when I was on their team. Like it felt like it's like, here we are. And like, everyone's like, and again, I know this really wasn't how it was going, but it felt like, couples therapist, her therapist, everyone's kind of like looking at me at like, man, you're really messed up, bro. You really like, I can't, that's what it felt like. And it was frustrating for me because I'm like, bro, I don't want to do this. I have documented evidence that I can show everybody of me trying to stop all of this stuff before I got caught. I mean, I documented evidence of me trying to get this out of my life before I got caught. So like,
why won't you believe me?
Yeah, exactly. So here I'm sitting in this office and it's like, they're all, and again, this is my perception. They're all like on this side of the desk and I'm over there alone on the other side. And I'm like, homies, I belong over there with y'all. Like the enemy, we have the same enemy. And it from the therapy side, I think they actually do see it. I know they actually do see it that way. So in hindsight, it was actually not thrown against
we can help everyone get to that perspective.
Yeah, correct. However, I will say there is a window that lasts, a year and a half, where your partner actually does have a hard time separating the behavior from you. Right. Yeah. And so speak to that phase a bit, Cory. Like, what do we do? Because in that first year and a half, it's you hurt me and you did these things, and they're wrestling with, you did this because I'm too fat, I'm too ugly, I'm not satisfying you in bed, you're bored of me, ever since we had kids, you don't like me anymore, blah, 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 blah. The list goes on and on. You want blondes and I'm brunette. They have this story. And we have to honor it because perception's reality. The customer's always right. My clients are all successful business people. So I always use that. The customer's always right. In this case, your wife's the customer and her perception is valid. But what do we do about that? Because it's hard to engage in a argument when you actually agree with her, but then she doesn't want you to agree with her. You see what I'm saying? Like if you are like, hey, I agree, she almost doesn't want that. How do we handle this dynamic?
Yeah. And I think, this actually dovetails into what you were just mentioning about how, like during that first year, if you aren't addressing your own emotions and what's coming up for you, and even showing some of that to your wife, then you're still distant. You're not accessible emotionally. She doesn't know how to read you. She doesn't know how to find your heart. And so I think that becomes, again, the key to both of these pieces is learning how to, I was going to say safely, but it's not going to be safe. Learning how to riskily, vulnerably show your wife your heart, the pain that you're going through too, without it being about
Mhm.
like trying to trump her, one up her, and
Mhm.
like, oh, you're hurting, well, I'm hurting, none of
Mhm.
that, but just ideally times that are not linked to a moment when she's sharing and she's having a hard time. Maybe it's after your therapy, right? That's, I don't know, the number one question I get in the first few months. Sometimes it even comes up later in therapy is, what do I say to my wife after this
Yeah.
session?
Mhm.
Right? Like, she's gonna ask me about it, she wants to know. So that's the leaning in, and
Yeah.
this I think gets to this question as well, is beat her to the punch.
Yeah.
It's so impactful if you're the one starting these conversations.
Mhm.
You're the one leaning in and going, "Hey, honey, I had my therapy earlier today. I'd love to share it with you. Do you have some time now, or when would you want to talk about it?" Right? And you've done some reflection yourself. You're going up with a couple topics you wanted to bring up, like, oh, we talked about this thing and how it's impacting me, and how even a trigger, right?
Mhm.
And I know that's a dangerous place to talk about, but that's what I like about it so much is maybe sharing. And I just had this the other day with a couple different clients, but it's here was this work stressor going on, right? And I felt really bad and low. And in the past, I would have tried to seek something to numb. I think I would have gone to porn or something, maybe scan through classified ads, go somewhere to try and numb those emotions. But this time I saw it.
Mhm.
I called someone right away. I started texting. I went for a little walk outside my office building, whatever. And now you can share that with your wife.
Mhm.
And that becomes amazing because now she sees your heart, she sees the work you're doing, and she sees that you're not trying to just do the same thing you did with the addiction of just, pull the wool over
Yep.
our eyes, the gaslighting, oh, it's
Mhm.
all great.
Yeah.
I'm in recovery. Don't worry about it.
Mhm.
We'll talk later.
Mhm. It's a tough thing, right? Because recovery, again, I hate breaching this topic because again, addicts and the addict brain, you give an addict an inch and they run with it, right? But it is tough with this because there is a kind of intrusive element at times of like, why can't you just stay out of my fucking recovery kind of thing? And I felt that quite a bit. Is it's like, dude, you don't need to like get in here, like, because it's like, I want to be in love with you, not have another mom, right, parenting me. And so there is a very real aspect of finding some boundary. But to your point, Cory, what's not going to fly is not talking about it at all. I mean,
Yeah.
it is, and I think that goes on for far past 2 years, 3 years.
Right.
I mean, like in the end, guys, when you cheat, her brain now knows that you at one point in time had the ability to cheat, and her brain will not forget about that
And
ever.
hide it.
Right? Yeah, and
Right.
lie
And
and
that's
lie.
the scariest part. She
Yeah,
never knows if it's going to pop up again.
exactly. And amongst gaslighting, maybe even other white lies post the fact when you say, "Hey, I'm never going to lie to you again," and then you lied again, right? All those aspects. Now her system is like, this guy has the potential to lie to me, and that so we do have to honor that aspect. And so there again, come up with, you guys are going to have to come up with some way to check in with where things are in your recovery. But again, there is a line between what feels very parenty. What I would say to guys though is in that first year, I don't know. I hate to tell you guys to kind of suck it up because I do actually encourage guys to start speaking up a little bit because there is a point at which
I do as well.
that we
Yeah.
starts harming the relationship, and we need to
For your own boundaries and sense of
correct.
safety, right? I mean, like, okay, it's really brutal, name calling, and the fight's gone long, and it's 1 a.m, and like, it's important to set that boundary for yourself, but also it can help provide some safety and containment to the relationship.
Yeah, correct. I think that does need to be done professionally, in my
Yeah,
opinion, because I think
it's not a DIY.
what doesn't get communicated often is like, it sounds to her like you're telling her when she can
Talk.
feel,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
that's not what we mean. What we mean is, hey, the truth is this shit's going to be going on for a while. I mean,
yeah,
if you guys are in the clear at year 3, good for you. I just, that's not typically, I mean, it gets better. I'm not trying to say it's pure hell for 3 years. I'm not saying that. It gets better, but I would say if you're going to hang in for the long run, you need to speak to your wife about that and say, hey, I'm trying to find something sustainable. And what I'm noticing is in the beginning, this kind of like mother son dynamic, like I tolerated it for a little bit, but I don't feel like you're equal when we do it this way. One of the things that I think in the beginning you do need to do check-ins. I think they want to know daily if you did anything. And so guys, just suck it up for that little window of time for those first 6 months. They do want to know every day, hey, anything you got to tell me? Right. Because you're a liar. Right. And so that's a fair assessment. However, I do believe
you can start it. You can initiate it. You can schedule it. It's going to go much further.
Yeah, correct. Exactly. This can be, but I do think, as time goes on, it does every night basically. And here's the thing too. Cory, the therapists come up with all sorts of creative names and, oh, well, how about you check in about, here's the thing. I don't care what you want to call it. Well, how are your emotions today? Come on. I can read between the lines. I know what you want to know. Did I lie to you today? Did I act out today? And so it's like, I don't care how the therapist wants you to dress it up.
Whatever acronym.
As an addict, it still feels like an interrogation. I don't care. And so, I would say that gets really old for guys for a while because you feel like a son, a son to a mom who is basically constantly not trusted and trying to get caught, right? And trying to catch you doing something, and that's just an unsustainable. So I guess that's my advice is, in the beginning, you guys kind of have to, there's a lot of fear, but I would say as a couple, you guys do need to find something sustainable because if this is going to go on for, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, what's a healthy, connected way to go about doing all of this? And it's tough in the first 6 months, but Cory, on that standpoint, let's talk like after the first year, what, I'm sure you've heard the same pushback. It gets old to do like you're a sex addict, you're a sex addict, you're a sex addict. Like that shit just gets old. So how do we kind of transition into something more sustainable?
Yeah. And this is where it truly gets tricky. And I'm not at all pretending to have all the answers. It's very much a case by case. I'm going to do my best to get in there with you. Same with my team at my group that I work with, and really get into wherever the couple's at, the individual. But one of those huge things is where the partner's at. Again, you were mentioning like kind of the check-ins and the momming. Like one helpful perspective on that too is that's her work to do, right? Like, it creates that power differential, but it's also that's the stuff she's working on, hopefully with her therapist, hopefully in group or some kind of support as well. And this is an area that still I don't have a good answer for. And I know it's not good for me to admit in a public forum, but how to help your wife get in there and get the help she needs, right? It's so hard because you can't be the one going, hey, here's this great book I found. You should really read it and get better so we can have sex again. It's not the way it should go. But at the same time, you're hearing about all these resources. Maybe she's not coming across them as much. And so perhaps this can go with some of the sharing time. If you've created a safe space there in checking in sharing especially after that year mark, you're showing sobriety, you're showing that you're consistent, you're not going anywhere, you're not bailing on her. Hopefully you've earned some safety there and earned a bit of a voice that you can not check in on her healing, but talk about it. Like it would be great for you to hear what she's journeying through, right? And it can lead to deeper conversations, I think, lead to deeper healing, knowing what she's going through, what kind of needs she has, and hopefully develop some shorthand for the two of you too, right? Where she can come home after her session saying, don't talk to me, that was really triggering, or and you go, okay, and you go and you make her tea or, I don't know, her favorite cocktail or, whatever might be needed in that moment to show her
well, this is a different kind of relationship because think about it, right? You're now with a cheater, and then as the cheating partner, you're now with somebody whose nervous system is tastefully scared of you probably forever, rightfully so, right? And I think that, Cory, that's the reason why there is work that needs to be done, because this is not a normal relationship to stay in. No. You guys are, if you're going to choose to go through this, I mean, this is not this is not normal. But when else do we put the perpetrator and the victim in the same bed and tell them to have sex together sometimes? I mean, we never do that. Usually when the victim is we separate them and the perpetrator, and typically they never see the perpetrator again, right? So here's this person who arguably does one of the worst things you can do to somebody. And now they have to raise kids together, live in the same house, sleep in the same bed, eventually have intercourse together one day. like this is a big ask. And so for everybody listening, this is why the therapy is so critical. It's kind of over me. Like, to me, there's the whole stuff of like how to stay together. That's not therapy. That's like what happens in the first 6 months is consulting. I mean, that's not therapy. That is just us sharing our experience with a roadmap that has been proven to work. You do need to transition into, and in my opinion, you kind of need to see a certified sex addiction therapist. This is a very unique issue. I mean, very rarely are we asking two people to do something so weird and difficult. Speak to that. What are some of the dynamics that change? Because I mean, you do have to create a new relationship. What are some of the things that are new, and how do couples go about thriving while being with somebody who cheated on you?
Yeah, great question for sure. And like you mentioned, like seeing someone, a CSAT who's trained in this, and I would broaden that to this place of trauma informed. I know it's become a little bit more of a buzzword. When I got certified back in 2010, that was like a revolutionary thing, right? To have a trauma informed therapist. But that's the reality of it. Both the person who struggled with addiction and the partner have had trauma in their background. Like, we don't find it otherwise. And so the therapist that's working with you both individually, but as a couple, and we do recommend 3 different therapists just to have that clarity out there too. They need to know their stuff. They need to know the trauma stuff and how it's gonna get triggered and respond, and hopefully be a step ahead of you guys so that they can help guide you in this new place of a roadmap. But like you're saying, Roland, how does it come to a place where you've got the victim and the perpetrator and you're asking them to be intimate and vulnerable with each other? Right. And not have it be like a Stockholm syndrome setup, because I've seen that too, and that's not pretty. And I guess the short of it would be it takes the work of the boundary setting, the personhood work for each person to know who they are, and that they're a good person, they're a healthy person, they love themselves, they love their partner, and to hopefully come together out of that place, right? So that when, and not kind of if, but when there's a trigger that comes up, when there's a false move that is made on the journey from making dinner to having an intimate moment in the evening, that when that moment comes up, it's not the world crashes down, we're back to square zero, I don't know why I'm even trying this with you, all of that. It's more there's the language, the understanding, the realization, okay, that's what happened for me right then. Wow, that was too hard. Maybe we can try again tomorrow. So I'd say that would be kind of the most succinct thing. We're doing some kind of neat work right now. I'm working on it with someone to help develop like some more tools for partners. So like a trust building like roadmap and like some boundary scripts, which I think is a really cool idea, where it's like, okay, depending on the situation you're in, whether it's maybe with family, right? What kind of boundary things can you say to help protect yourself in this journey that you're on of healing as a partner? Maybe it's even with your church or friends, but lots of them for how do you set boundaries with your partner as well to care for and protect yourself. So I find that being such a foundational place over and over, because it's so easy to get really enmeshed and intertwined in this process if the couple wasn't already before going through the addiction recovery process. But that enmeshment just gets so blurred on who's who and who's responsible for what and whose emotions we're responsible for. Am I responsible for yours? And it can be very well-meaning, right? The partner often has been caretaking, and I think, Rob Weiss wrote a good book about it too, but caretaking for the person with the addiction, and that's been out of love. And vice versa, the person who's been struggling with addiction is now trying to be there for their spouse, for their wife, and ends up caretaking emotionally and not saying things or doing things because they don't want to trigger her or hurt her. And so there's no way to have your sense of self there.
Right.
Engage in those moments of true intimacy and vulnerability.
Right. And let's end there, because I think that's a great place. I'll go first and I'll have you go in terms of just giving couples one, if we're going to give one piece of advice that would really help with this. I'll go first and then I'll have you go second. What I would say is, guys, it gets worse before it gets better. There's this, we love when things go up and to the right. And I would say typically they are going up and to the right. They just don't feel like they are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would tell everybody is it's very easy to lose hope. It's very easy to become extremely discouraged. It's very easy to tap out. I mean, this just like, how many times can you be woken up at 2 a.m. with a crying wife, like on a work night? I mean, it's exhausting. Right. And so, but despite the day to day, because there are days where you feel like no progress has been made, as a neutral third party, and I'm sure you agree with this, Cory, watching it from the outside in, it's moving up to the right. The couple just doesn't know it yet, because does it look like the coupleship that you had before all this happened? No, right? So to you, it's like, oh, this is bad. I hate this. When's this going to come to an end? But I will say you're going up into the right, even if you feel like you're not going up into the right, because I would say the emotional graph and the actual, psychological progress are different, right? The emotional one, I mean, there are times, I know guys who they experience lowest lows in year 2 that were way lower than anything that they felt in year 1. Not so much the females, the women, the betrayed partners, they get it pretty good in that first year. But guys, I would say the worst for you is yet to come. It's really easy to be a punching bag in that first year. It gets really old in year 2. I mean, it's just, it is not something that you're interested in. But what I would say is it's probably, especially for the guys, it is probably going to get worse, potentially way worse before it gets better. But I would just encourage all of you in those moments to take a step back and be like, come on, man. Like, I know it feels like we haven't made any progress, but like, bro, rewind back. Remember the month after disclosure, like, aren't you guys different since then? Right. And just so be real, that's what I would say, to maintain hope and just to help guys understand, just because you're experiencing the lowest of lows and you're 2 years out, 2.5 years out, do not read into that too much. Do not read into that too much, please. I would say that that's more common than it's not. So, really lean on your professionals with this. We've seen this before. It's not that uncommon, but don't let your brain lie to you and tell you that it's time to call it, because it's not always time to call it, even though it feels like it's time to call it.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah. Cory, what's your departing tip?
Yeah, definitely. Piggybacking on that, I think I'm just bringing back in old recovery wisdom of this. First and foremost is a spiritual journey. And what that means to me is there's going to be components of faith. You're going to have to trust in something you can't see. You're going to have to lean and rely on people that you don't know fully, like a therapist, like Roland, like, a sponsor. And you're not going to be used to that. You're going to bucket it, especially, a lot of the successful guys listening to this podcast are used to getting it done and knowing how to make things happen and, being the captain of your own ship. And so it's hard to really practice surrender and go, okay. And it's needed most in those moments, right? Those big troughs on that, like you're saying, year 2, when you're feeling hopeless and I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And the reality is you're not. But you all will, and you will, as you lean on others, be able to get through it. But if you just try it alone or just do it on your own strength, it's not going to happen. And so how do you pull in that higher power, God, sponsors, people around you, to not be alone in this?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think this is and I would say this too, because for high achievers, we lone wolf that shit. Even when people don't know we're lone wolfing it, we are lone wolfing it inside. So that's the other thing I would say to the other entrepreneurs and high achievers listening to this is, just because you're going to meetings, you have your little groups, you're going to therapy, going to couples therapy, that doesn't mean that you're really letting
Yeah.
people help you.
Mhm.
And I would say if you're really honest with it, you're probably still lone wolf in it. It's what high achievers like to
Yeah.
do,
I
and we
think
try to do it in recovery. And I will tell you this: you try and lone wolf this.
Mhm.
Trust me, I tried, and it did not work. It failed, just like all the therapists told me it would fail. The
Mhm.
connection with this, and I remember hearing it because I know you guys are. I know the guys listening. Like, it's a weird thing when you hear it, right? Like, your therapist, and every therapist will tell you this. Every therapist will say your peer support group will be the most valuable asset you'll have. It'll be more valuable than therapy. It'll be more valuable than your inpatient. It'll be the guys that you lean on for the 3 or
Day
4
to
years
day.
through this. Yeah, it's everything
Uh-huh.
with this. And I did not listen. I was like, I got friends. I talk to people, whatever.
Mhm.
No, it's not the same. I mean, so I totally agree with you, Cory. Tapping into something more than just head down, do the work. You can't work your way out of this one.
Mhm.
This is a process of feeling. This is an introspective process.
Mhm.
It's a,
Feels so foreign,
it is.
uncomfortable,
Yeah.
unknown, right?
Yeah. It is. Yeah. You're not going to capitalism your way out of this. I mean, this
Yeah.
is just not it doesn't work that way. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Cory, if people are going to get a hold of you guys, I know your group does all sorts of cool stuff. What's the
Yeah.
name of the group? Where's your website? How do they
Mhm.
find you guys?
Yeah.
Where are you? What states can you see people in? Give us the
Yeah.
lowdown on getting help with your group.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, Integrity Counseling Group is our group. And we have a website in the same name, integritycounselinggroup.com. Email, contact forms. We have a thing on there to schedule a consultation for free. So you can, set up and talk face to face to like my intake specialist or myself and just sort through what's best for you. We do newsletter stuff pretty infrequently, but we're trying to get a little bit better and try and find meaningful stuff that people are needing to have. Um, we'll see what else we develop too. But we're in California, we're in San Diego area. So if you want to see us in person, that's awesome. We have 3 offices all over the county, so make it really accessible for people. But if not, anywhere in California is great. Outside of the state, sorry, but when I've done other podcasts, I say, hey, call us anyways. If something I said spoke to you and you feel like, I might have some insight in your situation, I'd love to talk to you and still maybe help you get plugged in with a good CSAT in your area.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I always tell everybody, always make the call. I mean, if you resonated with what Cory said, make the call. If you resonated, shoot me an email, reach out to me on social media, on the website. The last thing Cory and I want you to do is think that this is hard and suffer alone. Cory and I know people. I know people in all 50 states. So there's not an area out there that I don't know somebody who can help you. So yes, don't do this alone, and don't drag your feet. I mean, especially if you're married. I mean, if you're not married, okay, then maybe time isn't as important. But man, I would say if you're married, don't drag your feet. If there's something you need to do, go do it. This is every day that you put it off is increasing the likelihood of divorce pretty tremendously. So don't do that. Don't do that. Cory, this was awesome, brother. Thanks for coming on today.
Likewise, Roland. Thanks for having me.